I have been able to bake outside lately using our barbecue, and today I wanted to take you along and show you how I do this, show you some ideas and ways that you can do this at your place too, even when it is just flaming hot outside. First is a homemade focaccia bread using herbs and some fresh grown toppings. You can find this focaccia recipe on my blog, and the link is in the information box below. I started the focaccia much like any bread. This recipe is just a simple combination of sourdough starter, flour, water, and salt. I like the focaccia because it's more of a no-fail bread. If you overproof any dough, really any bread dough, you can just turn it into focaccia. So one of the problems with cooking on a barbecue is that it's easy to burn the bottom of your bread. In an oven, you can change the placing of the racks. You can move them up or down. So if something starts to burn on the bottom, if you're making a loaf of bread and it's turning out dark on the bottom, you can just move the rack up away from the heating element. On a barbecue though, you can't do that. You have to work with what you've got. And so the way that I'm doing these recipes, a lot of the time I will just turn the temperature down a little bit because I can't move the loaf or the bread away from the heating element. You also have to realize though that one of the ways bread rises is because of all the heat. And so like if we're making a boule, one of those very crusty round loaves of bread inside of a Dutch oven, we like to use a really hot oven, really high heat. And you can't do that then with a barbecue because you'll just burn it up, right? You'll just burn the bottom. So today I'm not going to be making anything that is like a highly risen bread. And einkorn, which is what I'm working with also, I like to use einkorn, the original wheat. It has a much denser property, and so it's not going to rise quite as easily. If you know einkorn, you know that the gluten structure is a lot more weak, which is great because a lot more people can tolerate it, but it won't have as great of a rise. And so for that reason, I'm not going to do anything crazy and try and go make a loaf of bread in the barbecue. Much easier to do in the oven, but I will do more things like flatbreads in the barbecue. That'll be a lot easier to do out here. The other thing about a barbecue is that the door opening on it is much wider than the door opening in an oven. So if you are trying to check on something that is cooking in your barbecue, you're having to open that door up quite a bit, and that will kind of mess with your temperature. So try not to do that. Try to wait until checking your recipe right at the end of the cook time. And third, with a barbecue, you will want to be checking on the temperature because barbecues don't have that same, unless you have a really fancy one, they're not going to have that same ability to keep the temperature exact like your oven will. Okay, back to our focaccia bread. After allowing it to rise covered for 5 to 10 hours, and I say this because it really depends on the temperature. If you have a really hot day and maybe it is like 75 to 78 degrees in the house, you're only going to need to rise this thing for a few hours. So you might start this at lunchtime and have it ready for dinner time. If it's a cooler day and maybe it's only about 70 degrees in the house, you could probably rise it for about 8 hours and just do this overnight or start in the morning and have it ready for dinner time. So it just depends on the temperature. When this is ready to go, I warm the iron pan up to about 375 to 400 degrees. That's the area that I try to keep it in. And I keep the iron pan in there while it's warming up. Once it has reached that temperature, I take the iron pan out and I'm ready to use. While the iron pan is warming, I get my toppings ready. Today I'm using a little bit of crushed garlic. I'm using some fresh herbs from our garden. I'm using some tomatoes from somebody else's garden. And what else did I have here? Oh, I also grated some cheese that I got from Azure Standard, some of their raw Monterey Jack. And of course you want to have olive oil ready, and I also have a little bit of coarse salt that I'm sprinkling over the top. You can use just regular salt too, just to add a little bit of flavor at the end. Really though, you could do this with all sorts of different flavors. You could add some meat to this. You could just do different types of cheese on it with a little bit of garlic. That would be good too. You got a garlic bread type of focaccia. When I am putting the dough into my iron pan, my iron skillet, I spread it out by using my fingers. And what I'm doing is making indents into the dough, and these indents will stay, kind of like little potholes in a big road. These indents will stay, and then when I drizzle the oil over it, the oil will kind of collect in those potholes. This is always a hit for my kids, and honestly, you could probably separate this dough into about 2 or 3 different doughs to make some pizza on the barbecue. That would be a pretty easy thing to do. Obviously, you wouldn't have to bake it as long because it would be a lot thinner if you had separated this into 3 different doughs. But totally doable. It's kind of just another flatbread as pizza. This recipe will cook for about 20 to 25 minutes until the sides are all a little golden brown and the cheese has melted. Then you'll take your bread out, let it cool on a cooling rack for about 30 minutes before cutting into it. This one is really fun and really good to eat. I'm also doing my cream scone recipe today. You can get this one off of the blog as well. Have the link in the information box below also for that one. But I am changing it a little bit. The way that I'm doing this is I'm continuing to refrigerate the dough before I cook it. That does help with the rise. But I'm not going to preheat the iron skillet like I did with the focaccia. So this one, you just use the iron skillet at room temperature. I transfer my dough that has been sliced into the scone-sized pieces into the pan. I have parchment paper down on the pan. And then I go ahead and I heat up the grill to in between 350 and 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to cook these for about 20 to 25 minutes. Check them after 20 minutes and take them out if you start to notice brown on the bottom. These will brown fast on the bottoms after they start to brown, but know that this is a grill, so you are going to have some browning on the bottoms. That's just kind of the fun of having a grill, right? That's what happens when you grill food on the grill. So it is going to be a little bit different than cooking in the oven. I have one here and it turned out really great. I don't know how brown it looks to you. It's not black at all. It is a golden brown color. And then this is the inside. So it turns out wonderful for cooking it. This is something that is great to do if you need to go to a potluck or something and it's just very hot to be cooking in your kitchen. While I finish up my scone, I just gotta say I hope this has encouraged you and made it a little less intimidating to try and grill foods on the grill besides just meat. I hope you have fun with this summer. I'd love to hear if you have tried grilling your breads, especially einkorn breads, on the grill. Totally new topic to me, and it's fun to get involved with this. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great summer. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.